tonight.
I cried that whole day, and yesterday before I went to bed, I actually held my kids, because my kids will be going to school there.
A community shattered by grief comes together. Loche looks for hope after Friday's shootings wake up the nation to the struggles it's facing.
Canada is rated 6th in terms of quality of life, but when you apply the same indices to Indigenous peoples, we're 63rd. And that gap, maintaining that gap, is not good for this country, it's not good for this province or any of the province.
Today, the accused shooter was in court in Meadow Lake. As the people of Loche tell us what they need to heal from the shootings and shape a healthier community going forward. Good evening, everyone, and thank you for watching. 7 people are in critical condition at Royal University Hospital in Saskatoon after being injured in Friday's mass shooting. 4 others were killed. One of the victims was Marie Janvier. She was 21 and an educational assistant at the school. 35-year-old Adam Wood was just months into his first teaching job at the school when he was gunned down on Friday. 17-year-old Dane Fontaine and 13-year-old Drayden Fontaine were shot and killed at a home in Loche before the accused shooter went to the school. Here's the grandmother of the 2 dead teens. She's also related to the accused.
It really hurts. So please, you people of Loche, please forgive him for what he did. We don't know. We don't know what it is. I'm going to ask the community. I don't want them to look down on us because I didn't force him to do it. His mother didn't force him to do it. His dad didn't force him to do it. I'm pretty sure so many times they had to talk to him.
Despite that plea, the accused did appear in court today, the first appearance of what will no doubt be a long and emotional legal process. The CBC's Dan Zakreski reports from the courthouse in Meadow Lake.
A 17-year-old from Loche is now formally charged with 4 counts of first-degree murder and 7 counts of attempted murder in relation to a shooting in that community last week. The teen just appeared this afternoon in the courthouse behind me before a room full of reporters and people from Loche. Now, the teen appeared to understand where he was. He's quite tall. He was wearing shackles on his feet and on his hands. The judge addressed him directly a couple of times and he replied he didn't have anything to say beyond that. He'll be back in court by video at the end of February. The judge spent the rest of the matter imposing a series of publication bans. We can't identify the teen because of his age. We can't identify the victims or the surviving victims. Those may be challenged later in court. Dan Zakreski, CBC News, Meadow Lake.
Today, the schools in Loche remain closed. The nation's attention firmly fixed on this remote community that, up until Friday, most Canadians had never heard of. Now, the people there are sharing their grief in a very public way. Devin Haru has been there since Friday night. Devin, we're all feeling troubled and sad by what's happened, but it's no more raw and real than for those people who live in Loche and know the victims and the accused. Tell us more about the mood there today, a day people would typically be heading back to school and work.
Jill, how do you even begin to describe the pain in this community? Perhaps Premier Brad Wall said it best yesterday. Here in this town, there are no words. I've been in this town since late Friday night, talking to residents, seeing their grief, seeing their hearts broken all throughout town and all throughout the weekend and into today, and perhaps no more evident was their pain than at a prayer meeting last night at the community hall. More than 300 people packing into this community hall. What's important to note about this is these prayer meetings happen every couple of weeks, set up to allow people in the community to talk about their struggles, talk about some of the adversity they're facing in their life. But of course, last night's took on much more significance in the face of this tragedy that happened on Friday. I went around town today. I was talking to more residents. Here is what some of them had to say about the status of the situation here in Loche.
Work together, I guess. Work together and praying.
I think they need help for youth, some kind of intervention. Counseling. drugs, alcohol related.
Other people that can help. If they really need to help, like they can help us with fundings to build something better for our young people in our community. Instead of like when young people ask for something, say like to build something or to do something, they say there's no fundings. Why is that? This is what the kids, the young people need, is funding so they can build something and then they have something to show for.
Devin, we know this is a community hurting right now, but there are also bigger issues that have been plaguing Loche for some time.
Drug abuse, alcohol abuse, violence, bullying, and of course the highest suicide rate out of any other community in this province, Jill, 3 times the national average. This is what a lot of the community members, as you heard moments ago, want to talk about right now. In some respects, looking at this tragedy as a chance to push them forward, to move them forward, to allow them to come to a place where they can work together as a community. I had a very compelling conversation with a young 27-year-old resident of this community who talked about some of his struggles through bullying, talked about what the youth in this community face. Have a listen to what Perry Herman had to say about the situation here and how this community and its youth can move forward.
But how much time does it take and how much people need to hurt themselves more in order for them to actually take action? Instead of just saying, oh, we'll do this in time. And in time, how many more lives are going to be lost? In time, and how many homes are going to be shattered? How many students are going to have to frighten in order for them to take action?
And when we talk about the future of the young people of Loche, a big question tonight, Devin, is when will they return to school? What are you hearing about that?
At this point, Jill, there is no timeline into when the more than 900 students will walk back through the doors of this school. You can see that police tape continues to surround the perimeter. RCMP telling me earlier today that their main part of the investigation inside the school is over and that they should be opening the crime scene at some point in the near future. But that does not mean any staff or student will be entering anytime soon. In fact, in yesterday's press conference, the mayor, Kevin Janvier, said he wanted this school completely torn down. He says, Jill, there is so much trauma in the bricks, the mortar, and in the hallways that they need to rebuild the school on an emotional level, no doubt. So this is a situation on the ground here in Loche. Day 3 after this tragic shooting, Jill, and this community is still reeling, trying to find hope in some of their darkest hours.
Understandable. It is a very long road ahead. Thank you so much. Devin Haru reporting live in Loche tonight. The Federation of Saskatchewan Indian Nations is among the groups rushing in to help. Chief Bobby Cameron was in Loche over the weekend. Cameron was among the national, provincial and local leaders to meet and talk about the needs of this troubled community, a community beset by poverty, substance abuse and violence.
We're talking about a community that has 2 security guards at the liquor store, but no security at the schools. Something's wrong there.
Cameron says right now the FSIN has been working with Health Canada and Social Services to make sure victims' families have the counseling they need. Trauma teams are at the hospital and in the community. We've been hearing about how being a victim of violence is so common in Loche, and perhaps no one paints a clearer picture of that than this woman. Nearly 6 years ago, her son was shot to death in a gang-related shooting, and a year earlier, in 2009, her 13-year-old granddaughter was hit in a drive-by shooting. She survived. Now another relative is in hospital, a survivor in Friday's deadly attack.
When I entered the hospital, after receiving a phone call, and as soon as I walked through the doors, I had a flashback back to June 6, 2010, when her dad was shot. I carry a lot of pain. Pretty near every one of us in Loche had been victimized somehow through violence, through assault, through abuse, with suicides, you name it, we suffered it. We've been battling for years with social problems, social issues. For years, I've been a part of sitting around with government agencies, pushing for resources, pushing for services, pushing for programs. And up until now, it has fallen on deaf ears. And now, all of a sudden, if Premier Wall is making a commitment to make these changes, I want to hold him to it.
The second week of the Goforth trial began today in Regina. Tammy and Kevin Goforth are charged with second-degree murder in the death of a 4-year-old girl and unlawfully causing bodily harm to her sister. CBC's Tori Gillis reports.
It was another difficult day of testimony today in this trial, today with a new witness. A doctor who examined both of the little girls described in extensive detail the injuries and conditions of each of them that she observed when they arrived in hospital. Now, the doctor is a member of a Child and Family Medical Services team, once known as a Child and Youth Maltreatment team. She pointed to photos in court today to show where she documented injuries to the sisters. She said she felt that some marks on the younger girl's legs looked like either thermal or friction burns. She said the older girl had linear marks around her wrists and open skin there as well. While the doctor answered questions to the Crown, defense lawyers objected multiple times when they believed that she was offering opinions on how some of these injuries may have been caused. Now, the doctor responded with what sounded like frustration, saying, quote, "You're asking me to tell the whole truth and nothing but the truth, but I can't explain a simple medical finding." Cross-examination was brief. Defense lawyers clarified some medical terms and asked when the doctor ran tests to support her view that both girls had very low muscle mass. She said that she determined that from experience and that there is no test for that. The defense also asked Dr. Leibel about her use of the word horrifying to describe an injury. She said no, confirming it's not an objective medical term. Now, this afternoon was also a first in the courtroom, the first time that the girl's mother left for part of the testimony. She's been there for the whole first week. Now, she had a difficult time listening to the details of her daughter's conditions and cried throughout testimony this morning. Tori Gillis, CBC News, Regina.
A Regina man who claims he was racially profiled by police came to City Hall today.
We're just hoping to deliver a letter to the mayor.
Simon Ash Moccasin in the red checked shirt delivered a letter intended for Mayor Michael Fraser, who's the chair of the Regina Board of Police Commissioners. A year ago, Ash Moccasin was arrested by police after they said he fit the description of a man they were looking for, but they got the wrong man. Recently, the Public Complaints Commission ruled police went too far when they physically handled Ash Moccasin. Police apologized but said it wasn't racially motivated. Ash Moccasin isn't buying it.
That I was racially profiled. I was illegally detained. I do not match the description of the person.
Mayor Michael Fraser didn't personally receive the letter delivered by Ash Moccasin today, but a city official assured Ash Moccasin the letter would get to the mayor's desk. Victims of sexual assault aren't usually eager to discuss their terrible ordeals, but in one case, a Saskatchewan man has fought in court for his right to speak out. The CBC's Alana Cole found out why.
Zach Miller has been waiting for this.
I've been wanting to tell my story for a long time.
Miller was just 10 when he was kidnapped, held in an abandoned farmhouse, and repeatedly sexually assaulted. 2 days later, he escaped.
It was just always dark. He had all the windows closed, all the doors locked. It's always just dark. I remember every last little detail of it.
Peter Whitmore pleaded guilty to charges including kidnapping and sexual assault. For 2 years, Miller worked to get a publication ban on his name lifted so he could tell his own story. He wants to show other victims of sexual assault there's hope.
All the power in the world. They don't have any power towards you. It's your voice. As soon as you use it, you have the power. And you just got to believe in yourself.
There's more to Miller's fight. Whitmore already had several convictions for sexual assaults against children when Miller was abducted. He was sentenced to life in prison in 2007 and is now eligible to apply for parole. Miller and his family want to make sure he never gets out.
This country needs to change its laws, and we need to move forward to protect our children. Lock them up and leave them there.
They're not doing a very good job of protecting us. They're letting these people back out. There's red flags. They've reoffended many times.
Miller says he'll continue using his voice to help prevent a tragedy like this from happening to another child. Alana Cole, CBC News, Winnipeg.
A federal parole board has granted day parole for Graham James. The former junior hockey coach was convicted of assaulting several players under his charge in the early 1990s. There are conditions for his parole. James cannot contact the players he assaulted or their families. He is also prohibited from being in the presence of anyone under the age of 18. And he can't have a job where he's in a position of authority with anyone under 18. The board also requested that he complete 6 hours of volunteer work a week. They ruled that full parole is premature at this point. A Toronto police officer has been found guilty of attempted murder in the death of a teenager on a streetcar. 18-year-old Sammy Yatim was shot and killed on an empty Toronto streetcar in July of 2013. Constable James Forcillo fired a total of 9 shots at the teen. Today, a jury decided Forcillo was not guilty of murder or manslaughter in relation to his first 3 shots, but concluded he was guilty on a charge of attempted murder, which related to Forcillo's second volley of 6 shots. Forcillo's legal team says it will fight today's verdict.
This weather update is brought to you by the Trade and Upgrade event at the Capital Auto Mall.
Time for a check on our weather forecast now with our meteorologist, Christy Kleiman-Haga. Christy, it seemed like it was a decent day out there. What's it like right now?
Well, it's not too bad, still above seasonal, and that trend is going to continue through the week. Here's a live look outside at the Regina area. You can see a little bit of cloud cover still sticking around, but temperatures around -8 or so, so still pretty mild for this time of year. You should be sitting in those minus double digits still at this point. As we move through the week, the temperatures only going up. Tonight, you may fall into the minus teens, but temperatures close to the freezing mark on and off this week. Now, here's a look at our current temperatures across the rest of the broadcast region. Again, -8 in Regina, a degree cooler in Saskatoon. It has been a foggy day in Saskatoon. That should start to clear up at least by the day tomorrow. You could still see some fog tonight. And still around -3 in Maple Creek, still sitting as the hot spot just in that southwestern corner of the province. With the wind chill still feeling into the minus double digits, but winds will remain fairly calm, at least for the next little while. By tomorrow night, though, that's when you're really going to start to see those winds picking up a little bit. Here's a look at our satellite and radar. It has been a fairly calm day. Now, a little bit of cloud cover still lingering through the province, and the risk of some flurries as well as the risk of some freezing rain tonight will be patchy if you do see it, but that could mean if you do see that freezing rain, it will be quite slippery on the roads by the morning. It's all thanks to the tail end of a system just clearing out to the south now. That system will roll out, but we will be watching another system moving in for a late day tomorrow. Now, this system is going to be fairly fast moving, so it should clear out by the time you reach your Wednesday morning. But along this warm front here, that's where you're going to see the potential for some freezing rain tomorrow night, which will mean that roads on Wednesday will be quite slippery as well. That system rolling through fairly quickly by Wednesday early in the morning. It's already almost on its way out, and temperatures should be a little bit milder over the next couple of days as well. Now, one thing we will be watching is the winds as we move through tomorrow night. So here's a look at our wind gust forecast. You can see through the day tomorrow, not too bad. By the time we reach the evening, really picking up. You're going to see winds gusting to 60, even 70 kilometers per hour, beginning Tuesday night rather, and lasting through the day on Wednesday. Here's a look at our long-range forecast, and you'll see those warm temperatures we've been talking about. 0 degrees for your high tomorrow. Could see some fog into the morning hours, but clearing out for the afternoon. It will be sunny through tomorrow night into Wednesday. Through the overnight period, you will see some wet weather and the risk of some freezing rain, but clearing out again through the day on Wednesday, but windy weather remaining. Temperatures around that freezing mark or so all the way towards the end of the week. By the weekend and into next week, temperatures will slowly start to drop again, but otherwise a pretty warm forecast. Into the Saskatoon area, sunny start to tomorrow. You will see a little more cloud cover by the evening, and again, the risk of a few flurries, even some freezing rain out there. Temperatures remaining near the freezing mark throughout the week with lots of sunshine. But again, by the weekend, you'll see things cooling off just a little bit, getting a little closer to seasonal by next week. But all in all, no minus 30s in sight. It's a very warm forecast again for January, Jill.
It really is. Looks incredible considering we're in what is typically the coldest month of the year. And if you're not liking our weather, imagine being out in a boat in the ocean for days on end. 4 British rowers finished quite the journey today. The 4 women spent 235 days rowing across the Pacific from San Francisco to Cairns, Australia. That's 15,640 kilometers. They're the first 4-person boat and the first female team to make the trek, rowing 24 hours a day in 2-hour shifts. The women raised almost $80,000 for injured servicewomen and breast cancer research. The Prime Minister says he's scheduled a meeting with Montreal Mayor Denis Coderre. Coderre is one of the mayors who has come out against the proposed Energy East project, which would involve a pipeline moving Alberta oil to the East Coast for export. That prompted this exchange between Justin Trudeau and Rona Ambrose in the House of Commons today about energy sector jobs.
Mr. Speaker, there's almost 100,000 people out of work in this sector. Does the Prime Minister understand that his lack of leadership on this issue is creating divisions in the country?
Right Honourable Prime Minister. Once again, it's interesting, Mr. Speaker, that the members opposite are criticizing us for not getting done in 10 weeks what they were unable to do in 10 years.
Pulling no punches today, the Prime Minister in a heated exchange with interim Leader of the Opposition, Rona Ambrose, in the House of Commons today. Our top story today is dominant on our website. There you can find extensive coverage on not only today's appearance by the accused in the shootings in Loche, also a look at some of the problems that are certainly not unique to this northern community. One of the other stories following Friday's shooting is the call for the school to be torn down. You can read more about that. One way Facebook users are showing the community support is by changing their profile to blue ribbons. You can find all of these stories on our website right now at cbc.ca/SAS. And Christy, a last look before we say goodnight this evening at what our evening-night forecast looks like. What are we in store for?
It's not too bad. So if you are heading out for a walk or something like that, you shouldn't be too much in the bundled layers because temperatures will be sitting around that minus 10 degree marker. So at midnight in Regina, minus 11 degrees, partly cloudy skies, winds fairly light throughout the forecast period, at least until late day tomorrow. Then you'll see those winds picking up, minus 14 at 9 a.m. And you will see some sunshine through the day tomorrow. So that always makes the day a little bit brighter. Towards Saskatoon, minus 14 at midnight, winds at about 10 kilometers per hour. By morning, temperatures will be again in those minus double digits, minus 12 degrees at 9 a.m. But again, getting closer to the freezing mark by tomorrow afternoon. So more warmer weather on the way, Jill.
And if you like to try and warm up, some people go do maybe a yoga class, but if you're in this one, watch where you're putting your feet. Organizers at this BC studio brought 10 rabbits to the session, all in an effort to get them adopted. Participants perfected their downward dog poses as the furry visitors hopped around. Richmond, BC is a bit of a bunny surplus, and the mild weather means that some of the pets are being abandoned on the streets, and as you can imagine, they breed like rabbits, so they need to find some homes. This rescue group spays and neuters them and then tries to find them a permanent home. The adoption drive-in fundraiser was a hit with the yoga participants. There's going to be another session in the works to see if they can get some more rabbits adopted out. That looks like it's an added challenge for your core muscles. Do not move or you will harm an animal.
It's an extra incentive on the balance
right.
pose. If you fall, you could kill the poor little guys down there.
Looks like there's been some bathroom breaks on the yoga floor too, so I guess you'd have to not mind a little mess or two.
But a lot of fun. It reminds me of those cat yoga videos where cats, if you've ever done yoga with a cat, they're always where they should not be.
Yes, they're winding their way. Have a good evening, everyone. Thanks for sharing a bit of your evening with us. Good night.